We looked at agricultural policies, what they were, and why we even come out with agricultural policies, and why the need to review agricultural policies. Okay, and I think we saw one or two agricultural policies, and I also gave you a reading assignment, okay, to go and find out some policies within the MPP NDC sector. And this morning, I know you've done that assignment already, but I want us to look at it from a more practical perspective, okay? Looking at the recent argument or recent debates, okay, regarding one of the policies of the MPP government, okay, and know how to debate, know the realities on the ground. So we'll begin the class by watching a brief, let me say, news report, okay, which was actually a discussion between the Minister of Agric and another professor from the University of Ghana. So just listen carefully, and after that, we could come in with our lectures and hold our own discussion and viewpoints on agricultural policies, okay, with regards to this particular policies of planting for food and jobs.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
If your voice is down.
Okay, well noted.
Region, for instance, you hear that yams are there in hundreds of thousands of tubers, but there's no access because the little break there is broken or something has happened. And people can't evacuate, So we have all these kinds.
But that's not the main problem, is it? The main problem is that we are not producing enough locally now in grains.
Why do you say that? If we're not producing enough, there shouldn't be any stock in the market.
There is stock, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There is stock.
Yes.
It's whether it's enough.
Why not?
For the entire needs that we currently have.
Yeah, of course it's enough.
Including
the cost. This is what I'm saying. That is the cost of the stock that we are talking about. The price, which has gone beyond their normal levels because of the what is happening in the world. Okay, so it's the price. It's not physically. This is what I'm saying. I was going out there thinking that I wouldn't see any stock.
Well, let's speak to our
first video. Let's watch that from the professor who was also interviewed.
and credit.
Yeah, I think the Agric Minister was proposing an Indian model, which they want to adapt in our environment. But we need to understand that, the banks, normally mimic their lending depending on where they took their money from. So where they are picking their deposit from will determine where they lend to. So if the government will lend to them at a certain threshold and possibly give them that kind of a policy line to ensure that they lend to the agri sector, that is fine. But then we should understand that, the banks will always lend to areas of the economy that are doing very well. And so if the banks are not responding to agriculture policies, then effectively it tells you that indeed they don't trust their sector. And as a result of that, they are not prepared to lend to the sector. The banks have expertise to explore, the grounds to know which sectors of the economy that are doing well and restructure their loans in that regard. So effectively, if, the policy that he's talking about, probably It could be that the Indian government has a percentage that they lend to the banks and effectively force them to lend to the agri sector. Until we have that, I don't think any law can force, the banks to lend to the agri sector after this universal banking law. Let's take our minds back in the years. I mean, ADB, stands for Agri Development. What's their loan structure when it comes to, their lending? You can go into details and realize that they themselves are not lending to the agri sector. So effectively, it has to do with, sectors of the economy that are doing well. And I believe that the planting for food and jobs should have been a case study to give, the headlights. The agri sector is indeed a profitable area for which the banks will whet the appetite of the banks to put their money there. But I don't think, as it stands now, they have any baseline to lend to the sector.
If this goes through, given the current conditions, what are likely to be the implications, especially for the banking sector and perhaps the economy at large?
Well, what will happen is that people will start keeping their money. I mean, if it happens, that is a policy, because the Ghanaians themselves don't really trust the agri sector. I mean, when monies are being channeled in that sector, and we can count the possible losses. And no depositor will lend money for a bank to lend to a sector that they don't have confidence in. So possibly people will start sleeping on their monies, and we'll have a system where people will not like to send their monies to the bank, but then in the end, we're going to have a struggle financial system.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. That's Professor Lord Mensah. He's an economist and a finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. The Attorney General has defended the government's resourcing of the Office of Special Prosecutor, making a comparison with his own ministry.
Okay. So we
have
had
a free market and the
okay. Yeah, so with regards to the argument we just listened, clearly you can see that there are different perspectives, okay? And from the government point of view, and from let's say experts point of view, from a neutral point of view, how things are going with regards to that particular policy on what? On, let's just go to that policy on the policy on planting for food and jobs, okay? Clearly, the government's intention was to try to modernize, okay, agriculture. He says the government's agricultural modernization program is aimed at improving what? Production efficiency, achieving food security, and profitability for farmers, and significantly increasing agricultural productivity as the basis for industrialization, job creation, and exploits. So in other words, these are the key indicators, okay, for the planting for food and job. We expect to have highest food security, means more production. And the first point is improving on production efficiency so as to achieve food security, okay? Because the more we produce food, the more we are secured in terms of what? The amount of food available to us. Then as well as increasing profitability, okay, which is the third point under debate in that discussion. Okay, so if this policy was actually successful, then it means that those who were involved in this planting for food and jobs should have been able to make enough profits, which should make them attractive to the banking sector, okay, so as to also what? Get resources and capital to expand on their farms, okay, so as to, yes, I mean, link up with the banking sector even more to access more loans, okay, to increase on their productivity. But this is the situation where, from the neutral point of view, okay, you could clearly see that there are issues, and even the banks are hesitant in giving out loans to the agricultural sector, because generally the agricultural sector has been uh, not been that productive due to a lot of issues, okay, which we discussed in class and we will be summarizing up in class today. Okay, so there are quite a number of issues which is making the agricultural sector not attractive. Okay, quite recently we watched this how do you call it, the news on the pig farmers and the poultry farmers in Kumasi. Okay, people who had been in pig farming for about 8 years, a very big market, a very big market. And all of a sudden, because of this recent uh, disease, all the pigs in their farms, sometimes some of them had over 80 pigs, some had over 400 pigs. They all died. All the pigs died, which means that people who have been in business, over hundreds of people who have been into this business for about 8 years, all of a sudden came, okay, to nothing. No pig to even rear. Eh? And all the raw materials that are being produced by these people too were gone, which means that those processing the pigs, those processing the poultry have all lost their jobs. So close to about 500 to 800 people have lost their jobs. And in such a situation, if the banks even end up giving loans and resources to these agricultural, I mean, these farmers, okay, then it means that they will not be able to pay, which also comes down to what the aspect of accessing loans to even improve upon what their businesses and to put in modernized, I mean, structures or modernization to improve upon their efficiency. So it brings a lot of question marks. Now, I also want to find out your view about the situation with regards to the video we just watched, okay, on the aspect for planting for food and jobs. Like I always say, I know some of you are in the field, so we want to have your views on the issue from where you stand. Yeah, so let's have some views from the class.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Sammy. Yes,
Yes,
Sammy,
sir.
go ahead.
So, but the person is going into farming and doesn't. The person is going into farming and doesn't have money. He needs a loan.
Yes.
You have to, fund him with this loan. Why do you let him go in and then see his profitability before you fund him with money? I don't understand that part
Yes.
of the bank trying to see how much is obtained from the agricultural sector before they are attracted to giving out
Yes.
loans.
So
How can it be?
yes. So Sammy, you are right. The person is going into business and with the expertise, okay, hoping to succeed. But let's not forget the banks do have experts who have been conducting research on the ground, and they want to make sure they invest the capital of, you see, it is people who have given their money to them as an investment to also invest in businesses. So if the banks are also going to invest that money, they have to make sure they are investing the money in low risk ventures. So if I'm going to give my money to somebody who is going to import goods from China and will make more profit, which means that that person is not going to default on loan payments, then I'll do that instead of giving it to a farmer who's who we are not sure whether there is going to be some outbreak of diseases, and for that reason will not be able to refund, will end up defaulting on the loan. That is the point. So governments in this discussion, government is also trying to say, okay, fine, we are going to give about 20%. We are going to make a law. 20% of bank funding on loans should go to the banking sector. And we are also saying that if that is the case, you listen to the professor's viewpoint. If you make it compulsory, then in that case, the banks are going to be hesitant. In fact, not only the banks, but the investors who are giving the money to the banks are going to be hesitant. That look, we are going to give our money to you and you are investing 20% of it in a venture where we are not sure we'll get our resources. Why not sit on our money or put it in other investment, okay, packages? So that is the situation, okay? So for the banks, they wish they would have given it to the farmers because we all need the farmers to produce. But if we give it to the farmers and there's an outbreak of disease, like in the case of the poultry, I have witnessed situations where over thousands of birds were killed, okay, in a farm on a day. So if you have thousands of birds just killed in the farm, how do you make up for the loans you took to purchase the feed for this for your poultry? Okay, so it means that automatically you as an entrepreneur,
Hello, sir.
okay, you are indebted. You are indebted to the bank. How you are even going to raise the money
Hello, sir.
and to pay for those loans becomes a problem. So the bank experts also are hesitant because they know the situation on the ground. They know that even if it's a farmer who is going to plant crops, at the end of the day, when he finished harvesting, where are the roads to bring those crops, the output, the yield from the farms to the market to sell? That is an issue. That is the issue. These are the realities on the ground.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
Then, as a statisticians, I was thinking about developing a research on the risk ventures in agriculture. So I chose grass cutter. There should be areas where the risk is minimal or there's no risk at all.
Exactly.
So that farmers can actually do better in. For example, last time you made mention of rice farming.
Yes.
Rice farming, for instance, I think is doing well, but farmers are not being encouraged because for that venture you need money from the start.
Yes.
Therefore, the banks has to also see and calculate, investigate which product is the person going into.
Yes. So that
we
is
have
where
certain
we come
production
in.
like fish farming.
Yes.
Fish farming, for instance, is 100%. 100%. You will yield everything 100%. For example, this. If you're able to produce smart fish, I don't think there's risk. I have not heard mad fish pond where they have disease attack.
Yeah.
Something real. It has happened. But the traditional ones, if they are saying that it's not happening, there's too much risk, then we should look for new ways out.
Exactly. So that is where we statisticians come in. Okay, so we need to now begin to, you see, the bottom line of the issue is the government itself does not have a holistic approach on taking agricultural statistics. These are some of the gaps. We don't know exactly what is happening out there. So you see, the banks will conduct their studies for their personal use, not for government use. So they know the risk factors involved. But because the government does not have a census and does not have information on all our farming sectors, for us to know where we can maximize our profits, there are challenges in gaps. So we statisticians should be able to come out with some of these wonderful ideas that, okay, fine, if we should go into this kind of farming, we are likely to have a very low risk and very high profitability. So why not force the banks, okay, for this kind of farmers, let's try to push it, or maybe for this particular group of people, let's try to pilot and see how it's going. Because under the Planting for Food and Jobs, we also have a sector where people are actually into fish farming. Are they making profits? Are they not? What are the challenges in there? We should be able to collect statistics on all this so as to inform government's policy. But if you just tell the banks, go out there, go and give your money to anybody, then in the long run, the banks will also be hesitant. If you make it a rule, investors will pull out. your banks will also fall in terms of their investment and their capital. Okay, very good. Thank you, Sami, for the point. Can we have
yes, sir.
Yes, Adams, Abdul, can we have you coming in? Shadlin. Adams, I think you have a lot to give us, so let's have your view.
So now organizing my thoughts. I'll come back later.
Okay, that's fine. So let's have somebody else coming in. Don't forget I'm marking participation. Very important. Okay, so whilst you are gathering your thoughts, you see, let's touch on the second point here. The government has increased. Okay, let me just go straight forward. You know, the aspect of one village, one dam is also part of the strategies to achieve this policy on planting for food and jobs. Now, the question is, have we really achieved? We know some of the dams have been built, but there have been a lot of controversies to the standard of the dams that have even been created, okay, within the country, and the sustainability of those dams during the dry seasons. I don't know if anybody has, I personally have not gone there to see any of these dams, but I don't know if anybody has had first-hand information or has had the opportunity to witness any farms that are making use of these dams, okay? But we've heard a lot on the news, okay, regarding some of these dams, which suggests to us that it may be profitable in certain seasons or certain parts of the year, but probably within the dry season, there could be a lot of challenges regarding the use of these dams. But it's in general, the concept is a wonderful idea. Okay, once we have a dam for a village and there is availability of water for our crops, then virtually we are employing the right strategy in achieving what? Our agricultural policy, which is planting for what? Food and job. Then again, there were other aspects like planting for exports, okay? These are all strategies, and rural development, rearing for food and jobs, greenhouse technology development, as well as mechanization for food and jobs. So these are all strategies that were implemented so as to achieve the overarching word policy, which is planting for food and jobs, okay? Last week we said for a policy, you always have the vision, you have your objectives, you have your strategies, you have the monitoring of these strategies and goals, okay, so as to make sure that the policy is well implemented and beneficial to everyone. So that goes for food, planting for food and job. We also have agricultural policies like the One District, One Factory initiative, okay, good, which I don't know your view on that, but I think there have been some few companies like this juice manufacturing company in the NPP government. We had a sugar manufacturing factory in the NDC government, okay. I don't think it is operational now, okay, but that is also another challenge considering the amount of resources that we put in setting the factory up. Now, if you want to look at it from a political point of view, then it becomes an issue because years back, we had so many factories which have been collapsed, 2 manufacturing companies, we had tire manufacturing companies, okay, back then, and they were top standard and quality, okay, but I think we are still trying to creep ourselves back at a slow pace. But this is also a very nice policy. If we can get factories, then a lot of the people on the streets out there begging could easily be put into our factories to be working for us, okay? Because within the factory, we don't need people with I mean, high qualification masters, PhD, and all that. You could get a lot of people trained to work in various sectors of the factories, and we get our people more employed, which means that essentially the rate of what unemployment is also going to what to decrease. You understand? So when you look at it, he says the program is expected to facilitate the creation of between 7,000 to 15,000 jobs per district, and between 1.5 million and 3.5 million jobs nationwide, okay, by the end of 2021. But I don't think that has been achieved yet, okay, because all these factories have not been what initialized. I mean, they are not operational. It's just a few to count, okay, that are operational. But if we could have really raised the resources to have one district, one factory, that would have been a fantastic program where we get so many people employed within our factories. And let's not forget, once we get more people employed within the factories and we get more productivity, then in the long run, it's going to affect our GDP and it's going to affect our national income as well, which means that that is the way forward. If we can increase productivity, we can increase our export, and then we also limit our import, because we are producing more, which means that we will not need all the foreign exchanges, okay, to import, but rather we are going to export and have more foreign exchange, and then have more income within our country. So the way forward is actually development of what factories and the industrial sector. Okay. I just want to touch on the policies, but I'll come in to take your arguments and your additions. Okay, I still have like 20 minutes to go. Now, we also have youth in agricultural program, okay, which we've heard about. I don't want to touch about, I think we all know buffer stock management is also another policy which we've seen. We've also talked about the Savannah Accelerated Development, okay, which was essentially to bridge the gap between the North and the South, okay, in terms of development. So this came about, the bridge gap SADA was born out of the Act of Parliament, which is SADA Act 2005. Now the question is, how successful has this policy been? So we have nice policies, we have nice strategies, but the implementation and the monitoring is sometimes an issue, okay, within our area, okay, of the world. Our implementation, the monitoring and evaluation is always a challenge to us as a nation. Now, let me come, I think this comes to the end of agricultural policy. So let me take one or two views before I introduce generally on agricultural statistic development. Yes. So one or two views from the class before I proceed. Yeah, Adams, can I have your views now? Where is Sophia?
Sir, I'm here.
Yes, let me have your comment, your views. Yes, okay. Somebody, Esther, go ahead.
Sir, good morning.
Good morning, Esther.
So please, my view is about when you are going for a loan.
Yeah.
I think that they have to check whether you have an asset, a tangible asset that they know that if even they give you the loan and what you are using it for, it's not profitable, at least they can use that asset that you have, like a school going for a loan. They have to check whether you have a collateral before they can give you the loan. They can't just give you the loan. And what if you run as a loss? Because the money that is people's investment.
Yes.
So I think that when you're going for a loan, I think that when you're going for a loan, you have to get a collateral, you have to get an asset, or you have something there that you can boast of before you can go in for the loan.
Yeah, so Esther, you're right. This time around, you see, the case with farmers is it's a complicated matter. You see, if it's an individual loan, you talk about assets, okay, where the company can retrieve their money by selling your assets in case you default the loan. But you see, the truth of the matter is banks do not want to be selling your assets because that is not what they are in for. Banks are not in to be selling assets. So they don't like selling the assets in the first place. They want you to pay back their loan with the interest. Then let's come to the case of the farmers. Now, what is the asset of the farmers? The asset of the farmers will be their farms. So which means that if a farmer is coming for a loan, okay, to expand his farm and produce food for both you, the banker, and myself, and the farmer to consume, and then you tell him that he should bring his farm as an asset, which means that if he fails to pay back the loan, you are taking the farm from him. When you take the farm from him, who are you selling to? Are you going to sell to a farmer? No, the farmer will not get the money to purchase it. It means you will end up giving the farm to somebody else who is not going to use it for farming, farming activities, which means that in the long run, both you and the bank and the farmer will be affected. Yeah, so when you look at it on the ground, then it is not wise to ask the farmer to bring his farm as an asset or as a liability for what? The purpose of giving out a loan. That is where some of these challenges come in. That is where so they will prefer not to even go at all, because once they do that, it becomes a complicated situation for the banking sector in particular. Sorry, for the agricultural sector. Yeah, Osei, let me have your.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Osei. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what Esther was saying, I don't agree with Esther, because let's say if I have a collateral or I have an asset, why would I come for loan? I could sell my assets and invest into my farm. And so, most of these farming are in the rural areas, and there are less like capital or asset there. If not their lands, they have nothing.
Yes.
So it's the government that's supposed to initiate some policy that will help them and help the government as well.
Yeah.
So that in case that they are into cocoa farming, when it gets to time for harvesting and selling, at least the government can chip in and make something out of it. But when it's like bring an asset, like there is no asset. As only land that they have.
That is it. That
and
is
even the land, it has not been lances or certified by lands. They don't have any documents. It's family land. This is your land. That's how it is.
Yeah, you are right. You are right, Osei. Let's have Esther's hand is up. So let's have her reaction on this point. Yeah, Esther.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, please. Okay, so what he was saying, meaning that they have to get a strategized policy for their farm.
Exactly.
Yes, so maybe that is the solution to what he was saying.
Yes, exactly. So that is where government is coming in. We want to make it a rule or a law to give 20% of your capital to your loans to the farms, okay, which will also bring issues once you go in that direction. Good. Then I have, I think Musa's hand is up.
Sir, please, I also want to comment on the one district, one factory policy.
Yes, go ahead.
Had that policy been very effective, Ghana would have been where it is now. Because it's going to create loss of employment for the youth.
Yes.
And in that regards, it's going to reduce social vices in our communities.
Yeah.
Because they know that when they get up in the morning, they know where they are going to work. They wouldn't have time for maybe any bad actions in the society. So I think the government should invest money in that policy very much.
You are right. You are right. Thank you for your contribution. Do I have Sami's hand up? Sami. Okay, let's take Robert.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Robert.
Sam, ahead.
Okay, Sami, hold on. Let Robert finish first. Yeah, Robert, go ahead.
The letter also added the government should set a committee that will train some farmers on some crops and production that they want to involve themselves in. Because some farmers sometimes they just have the farming idea and doesn't know the risk inside the what they're about to produce. So sometimes there should be an educative programs for them to know.
Yeah.
And I think it will also help.
Yes, yes, you are right. Currently, they have extension officers that they are limited. Okay, I think the ratio is now 700:1. Okay, let's take Sami. Sami, your view.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm trying to wrap up on what Mr. Bonsu and then Madam Esther said.
Yes.
Now, Esther was asking of bank demand from some prospective loan seeker that they should have a collateral. Does it mean farmers don't have collateral? Basically, I think it is our level of education. Most you can go around and assess and find the statistics that most farmers even don't know that there is a facility like a farmer going for loan. Those farmers who are doing well, who are on commercial scale, I think you can ask them and they will tell you that they can have access to loan. I don't agree with that idea that farmers cannot go for loan. It is not true. The banks are ready to give money. You have certain conditions to fulfill. If you go and you qualify as a private individual, why won't they give you the loan? They will give you the loan. But I'm sure that statistically, we have farmers who don't even know that there is that facility because of the level of education. It is common in Ghana here. And I don't think this one you need even statistics, but since you have to provide statistics to prove, they don't even know that there is a loan. And talk of you also made mention of government setup projects, which lack monitoring and implementation. So government cannot do anything on its own. If that is what is happening, and we want to venture into privatization, I think certain farmers have to. But those who are even doing well, I have a certain farmer here. He is into pineapple farm, a very big time farmer. He used to export and then other things. Their problem is diseases outbreak, as you made mention of.
Yes.
They will at a point in time they will come back to square zero. So I think we have to look for ventures which are risk-free, because as an entrepreneur, if the venture is too risky, I don't think it's good. How can you go into a project and at the end, or let's take for poultry, all your birds will die, and you don't have even a morsel to feed your family? Then you are left with debt. That is what I want us as a statistician to go into and then help the government to understand.
Exactly.
So that's my contribution.
Okay, thank you, Sami. Let's take Salifo. Salifo Kori.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Salifo.
Okay. Upon listening to all of them, I think in this country we need to be, the government and the individuals, we need to be serious about our agriculture. I've been a farmer before. The agri schools we have a lot of graduates who are supposed to get to the ground and teach or let the people know what they're supposed to. And in this country, if we talk of one of the poorly performed and then like they don't take care of them, it's students, students. And whatever we do in this country comes from us.
Yeah.
But yes, like what you just said, the one village, one dam.
Yeah.
I went to my village. Yes, I've seen the dam, but it's dry because it's dry season. It was dry.
Mhm.
So unless it's rain, then the water didn't come. So what is the purpose? What is it? Why is this one village one dam? So we need to be serious. The people that put in that institution, they are not serious. They don't always take it as a major thing. And that is affecting all of us today. When you go to the market, buying something is a problem. And also come to the banking loan side. I think there was that it's a reason for the coming to be of Agric Development Bank and then Exit Bank.
Yeah.
So the yes, if I get it, I've been to Agric Development Bank for a loan before, and then but it's hectic matter. When you get there as a farmer, you don't take it. The disregard, like they bring the farmer to a low level to the extent that if all the bank they even create for you can't go there and do whatever you want, fast and good. You'll be there, then the coach people, the chief people will then come and then they'll take care of them and they'll do. So where
Yeah.
is this?
Yeah. So you're right. You're right. Your point well made, Corey. I think Adams had his hand up at a point. Adams, let me take you before I wrap up today.
I believe all is said, but I would want to also stress on some points like education, like my brother Sami said. I think there's low education on agric and farming itself.
Yeah.
So probably there can be frequent workshop on the side of statisticians to equip them on how to go and get data for agriculture, and also on the side of farmers to equip them or tell them the kind of farming activity they should endeavor in.
Yes, endeavor
and
in.
choose the one that has lower risks.
Exactly.
So that they can also stand the chance of getting themselves some loan or government incentive that comes in play in terms of agriculture.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Thank you. Thank you for your input. Esther, your hand is still up. Do you want to contribute?
Okay, say.
Yes.
So please about going to the bank for the loan.
Yeah.
I think that pay the farmers more on it because let's say some of the illiterate farmers they thought when they go to the bank they won't treat them well. So those who have more knowledge about banking, that's when they will go. For example, the time that MTN they asked us to use our ID cards.
Yeah.
Those who were not into using their ID and that they don't have knowledge about it, they thought when they use their ID. So let's say that I'm illiterate and my friend go and withdraw money and come and tell me, oh, the time I went, they detected this from my account. And then since idea about it, I'll be like, okay, then when I go and withdraw, they will also deduct my money. So I won't go at all. So there is this fear in that maybe when they go there, they wouldn't get the money, the requirements that they want, or what the bank will request from them. They don't have, so they will the bank for the loan. So I think that the government also has to try people to educate them about loan taking and stuff.
Yeah. So let's take, I think Adams has a final word. Yes. Adams, go ahead. Adams.
I said, I think something has to do with attitude as well. You see, most of the times, government or passionate about farming. So when they get there, I don't know if my point is a bit clear, but government should also enable that people who have experience in farming and know on the job, like know things concerning agriculture, should be appointed in those areas.
Yeah.
So that when people can come to them, they can be a little bit of education. So all boils down to education I was talking about. But you see someone who has zero knowledge about something and the person is there, such a person can't help make growth.
Yeah. So,
yeah, so
we have extension officers on the ground who from time to time gather the farmers to train them, and sometimes they even go around to see what the practices of the farmers.
Sure.
Yeah, I've come across some in the Western region who would, organize programs for the farmers, show them how to even plant, how to go about, how to use fertilizers, the distances, modern ways of planting. Yeah, so they do that. Okay, but it is not enough. Okay, it is not enough. Yes,
it should be intensified.
Yes. So time is not on our side. I have to be rushing to camp, but it's almost 8:30. So I think the debates is on. We can still be talking about this and debating in class. The next assignment I'll give probably should lead you and should excite you in these debates, okay? So that we can talk more about this agricultural policies in terms of a debate. Now, let's come down to the main gap. We are saying that agricultural statistics are important because there are gaps. Government does not know what is going on. Farmers do not know the risks involved in certain farms. In fact, we do not even know when those risks and those diseases and those factors come into play. Okay, and all of some of these challenges can be addressed by statisticians. As long as we take data and we're able to estimate the risks, we're able to tell the patterns out there, we're able to look at the combination of factors. When I do ABC, okay, compared to CDE, I mean, what are the impacts? What are the effects out there? Okay, if we're able to do that, then we know that we're going to make headway. But as it stands now, all that government knows is we have challenges with irrigation. Then government comes out and say, okay, then let's do one district, one dam. Okay, but how do we go about it? What are the real challenges with irrigation? Okay, is it a dam that is needed, and what type of dam is needed if dams are needed? Okay, do we only need dams, or do we have to probably put in some other structures to mechanize the whole process of irrigation? We don't have them, and we are saying that we need statistics on what? Agriculture. Okay, and we are saying that in the past, statistics were basically not let me say a very focal or a unique, okay, data collection tool when it comes to agricultural sector. Okay, we just pick them. For example, once we conduct censuses and we find out that the person is a farmer, okay, then we just take the data on the farm. Okay, how large is your farm? Then we just take the data. What are you farming into? Then the government just picks the data. So if government needs any information on agriculture, it just falls on data that has been collected during, let's say, 2020 census. Okay, so we are saying that these statistics were gathered as a byproduct of data collected for administrative purposes by government departments concerned with what? Inherent defects, such as collections by subjective means and by administrative officers, not too conversant with what? Statistical techniques. So they just go out there, take data without even looking at what data will be relevant, because the people taking the data themselves are not statistically sound. okay? And then a lot of the data is also by subjective means. So for example, somebody will ask, how much do you spend in maybe preparing this food, okay? Until you weigh or until you purchase the item, you cannot know the actual price of it. But sometimes somebody will just come up with some statistics based on subjective methods. And anytime it's subjective, the answers will vary very greatly. Good. Now, we need to develop our statistics in a country. And there have been efforts, okay, to migrate from one level to the other. And over the years, our National Statistics Office emerged in various countries with the assistance of a department of what? Agriculture, okay? So the first point of view was to create a special ministry, which is the Department of Agriculture, which should liaise with statistical services to take data on agriculture. But there are still challenges. But we are saying that this is the first step, and that has been done. By improving the reporting system and gradually replacing subjective methods, okay, of collection by objective methods, okay, is using sampling techniques is one of the key objectives of having National Statistical Services or having statisticians coming in. So for example, we just have rough idea. Even currently, when you talk about the farming lands, a lot of these estimates we have is by subjective idea. So once we go to the farmland, you ask the farmer, what is your farm size? He will just sit down and say, oh, the size of my land is, I think I have about 100 acres. Okay, he just looks at the size of the farm and say that since his friend's farm is also looking like this, and he seems to have more plantain on it, then it means that he has 100 acres and his friend has 80 acres. That is a subjective method. So statistical offices or statisticians are coming in to help us to reverse or to move from the statistical, subjective reporting to objective techniques of what? Sampling and trying to find out exactly what we have in the agricultural sector. Now, for the sake of, okay, let me touch on this. In the past, some of the methods we use are field reporting systems, eye estimation. So the example I just gave is eye estimation. So we just look at the farm and say, okay, because my land seems to be bigger than your land, then my land should be about 120 acres of land, or about 2 hectares of land. That is how things were done. Then we also have farmer interview and expert assessment. So sometimes they interview the farmers, or how much corn do you produce, okay, within the farming, the harvesting season. Then he tells you, oh, I'm able to produce about let's say 300 kgs of what? Of corn. Because I had about 10 bags of seed. But these are not accurate. We need to measure them. We need standards to measure the exact yield from the farm. So we need to go away from interview method and subjective techniques to more of what? Objective methods. And once we are going with objective methods, then it means that sampling techniques will come in, okay? Because statistics is a scientific process and needs what? Samplings and needs probability techniques, okay, to come out with what? Objective methods. Okay, so we are saying also that there are issues with the development of agricultural statistics, particularly in our section of the world. Okay, now one of the key issues which we have to face is the issue of policymakers themselves and the planners and statisticians we have at the moment. Okay, the policy makers, those making the policies in government, have their own perspective of things, and sometimes we will not want you to go to that extreme. Okay, sometimes to the people who have been appointed to man the statistical office in the agriculture sector, themselves, I mean, have limited idea on the statistics, current statistical methods. Okay, in the past, you'll be surprised. Uh, um, Sometimes you go to some offices which are supposed to be statistics oriented, and they themselves didn't even know how to make use of the computers for what analysis. You see, about 10, 15 years back, okay, I've experienced that. So on the ground, we have people who are in charge of statistics, but they themselves have shortfalls with statistics. Let me put it that way. Then we're also saying that often policymakers who are in charge of agricultural statistics in developing countries have little knowledge of what the discipline of statistics is. That is what we are saying. Okay, so there are gaps in terms of, resource people, okay, to man our agricultural statistics for us. There are huge gaps, which means that we as statisticians or we as students of statistics should be able to build ourselves to fill up these gaps, okay, in the agricultural sector or in the Ministry of Agri. Then again, we say some policymakers and planners have vague ideas on development of agricultural statistics, and others, though knowledgeable, have rarely addressed their minds to the subject. So that is also another issue. We put our statistics there, and the government says, okay, these are your statistics, but this is what I want to do, and ignoring the real facts on the ground, okay, to do what they want to do as a government, just because of politics. Good. Now, I think time is far gone. Let's put a halt here, okay? We've got issues we need to discuss, and I also want to get your views on the issue, practical views. So we will end on the development of agricultural statistics here. Read more on it. The next week we come, we'll take it off from there and try to conclude. And once we finish this, we'll be looking at sampling, okay? How we go about with data collection within the agricultural sector. And for that reason, sampling, okay, tools that can be employed to take agricultural statistics. I'll bring the curtains down here for today, okay, and we'll meet, God willing, next week. Next week is going to be